Okay, so today I'm going to tell you guys a little bit how to analyze fingerprints, and in the process of that, you have to locate, collect, and then analyze a fingerprint. So what I'm going to start off with today is how many of you in here actually own an iPhone? Okay, within that iPhone, how many of you actually use your fingerprint as to unlock your phone? Okay, this kind of pertains as to you guys as to why fingerprints are important and how they can specifically identify you as a person. So today I'm going to talk to you about how you can locate a fingerprint, how different ways you can collect it, and how you can pretty much identify a person with your fingerprints. So to start off with, there are a few different types of fingerprints. There you go. Okay. Well, the first kind is called a patent fingerprint, and a patent fingerprint, here's an example of a patent fingerprint. And according to Crime Museum, a patent fingerprint can be made by blood, grease, or ink, or dirt, which is pretty much self-explanatory, and here's just an example of what a patent fingerprint looks like. And another example of one is called a plastic fingerprint, which is basically anything on a non-phosphorus surface, so anything that's soft, so like soap or molds or clay or anything like that that leaves an indent into a fingerprint. Another example would be a latent fingerprint. These fingerprints are kind of hard to find. They're naked to the human eye, so you really have to look for them. And this is an example of like an officer or someone actually dusting for a fingerprint like on the side of a car. And now that we have located our fingerprints, we're going to talk about different ways you can collect them. There are many different ways you can collect them, but today I'm going to talk about two specific ones called super glue fuming and just fingerprint pattern. Super glue fuming is up here. It was actually created out of complete coincidence and accident. And according to Fingerprints Outreach Team, super glue fuming, it is all started with a guy named Berta. What actually happened, he was doing an experiment to find something else, and in the process of doing that, his own fingerprints occurred. So this right here, this first picture is after a couple minutes of the process. The second picture is a couple hours to a few days after the process, and the last picture is a few days to a week after the process. So it comes up more and more in depth. And then the fingerprint pattern, basically there are two different types. You have your magnetic pattern and you have your regular black pattern. A lot of people prefer one or the other, but basically, ultimate goal, it does the exact same thing. You take that brush and you put soft bristles and you dip it into the pattern, and you just basically dust for your fingerprint. Another way you can do this, if you guys want to find your own fingerprints, you can take like a pen or a pencil with really strong lead, and you can rub it on your finger until you get like a thick layer. Kind of like rub it on your own paper, and you can kind of show up your own fingerprint. You kind of do that. So now that we have located and collected some fingerprints, the next thing we're going to talk about is how to analyze the fingerprints. And when it comes to that, there are three main types of fingerprint patterns. You have your loops, whorls, and your arches. And according to crime scene forensics, loop patterns account for 70% of all fingerprint characteristics. Now, when it comes to loop patterns, which are over here, you have two different types. You have your ulnar loop and you have your radial loop. The radial loops, if you look at your fingerprints, they all go towards your right hand, so it'll go like this, and then the ulnar loops, they'll go like this towards your left hand. And then you have your arches. You have what's known as a tendon arch and a plane arch. A tendon arch kind of makes like a T. It's kind of like a tinge or like a mountain if you want to roll it that way. And then a plane arch is kind of like a rolling hill type of thing. And then you also have four different types of whorls. You have your plane whorl, your double loop whorl, your accidental whorl, and your central pocket whorl. And then fingerprinting article, they actually said that there's another type of pattern, and that is called composites. And composites, they are patterns found in fingerprints, which are combinations of arch, loops, and whorls. So now that we know like the patterns, we can kind of go more in depth and look at the actual characteristics of fingerprints. And here's kind of some examples that when you look at your fingerprint, you can find like different crosshairs and like bridges and closures and things of that nature that really identifies who you are as a person. And that what makes it very unique, because even if you have like a scar or something like that, like that scar is actually going to be down on your fingerprint, and that's going to show that's different to every single person. So, all in all, when it comes to fingerprints, it's very unique and different, and depending on how you collect your fingerprints depends on the type of fingerprint that you can collect. So, if someone was to find, and if you were to go into a crime scene and you were to find like a bloody fingerprint, you're not going to want to do like a dusting type of fingerprint. You can't use, because that'll like mess up like the blood, because you can't use powder when it comes to blood. So you'll have to do like take a picture, and then you'll have to do it that way. And then when it comes to like, if you were to look on like like some of these desks or like on this piece of water bottle right here, there's gonna be a fingerprint on here, so if you like leave it, you take like a little flashlight, all you gotta do is you gotta get some pattern and just dust it off. So any of you could really, if you really wanted to do it, you can do it yourself. So all in all today, I hope you guys have learned a little bit in how to collect fingerprints, locate them, and like go a little more in depth over the fingerprints. And this was from the FBI website. They said that fingerprints vary from person to person. Even identical twins have different prints and don't change over time. As a result, they are an effective way of